reason. Are you good today? Are you really good? Yeah, some of you are. Some of you aren't. It's a good day, and we've been talking about how great God is. Has anyone ever said to you, like, how great God is? Have you said it to someone else? Have you ever told anyone how great God is? Or do you just keep that one to yourself? You know, it's good to keep, like sometimes, you know, when you've got something really, 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 really good, you want to keep it to yourself. But that's not Christianity. Christianity is the opposite of that. When you got something really, 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 really good, you got something really, really, really good, what do? We share it. We share it. That's my number one lesson as a married man, is to learn how to share. My wife has been teaching that for a long time, and we'll see how we go. It seems that society we face a society that is really skeptical about our faith, right? They're really skeptical about things they can't see. They're really skeptical about religion. And to a large degree, the society, because it doesn't understand it, wants to quieten it. And I think largely too because even people of faith we're unsure about how to communicate the greatness and love of God to other people. Because sometimes God is so big that before Him we go, well, how do I live with God in a society that doesn't know God? And it also seems, people, Christians as well, we're easily offended, and I have over my lifetime, trying to figure out other people's beliefs, have been easily offended about other people's beliefs and their lifestyle choices. It's sort of like this. You have every right to live your life your way unless it offends me, right? And then that's the sort of the feel at the moment in society, And then, if you offend me, well, I'm going to post it on social media and I'm going to shame you, if you have something different to me. And it just doesn't seem that Christian to me. It just doesn't seem that Christian to me. It doesn't seem something that Christ Himself would do. And it's quite interesting there. I just want to talk about today about the holiness of God, okay? Because we've been singing this song, there's no one, huh? There's no one like God. Until you actually experience God personally, things don't start to fit in your mind, in your innermost person. Until you have that experience, that personal understanding, the lights come on and go, wow, God is so great. And why is He so great? Let's go on to the scripture here in 1 Peter 13. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at His coming. This is talking about not Jesus' first coming, but He will come again for His people. 14, as obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had. Who's had an evil desire this week? Don't look at someone else. You had when you lived in ignorance. But just as He who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy because I am holy. God is so big and great, He exists outside of the universe. There is nothing like God. There's nobody like Him. And it's for us to fathom that, it means that He has to come down to us and He has to share some of what is Him with you and I. God is the big sharer. He is the God of sharing. He wants to share who He is, His loves, His desires, His wants. He wants to share them with His people. In fact, His people He calls holy as well. God, so big, comes down to earth, right, and says, I need for myself a people. So He took a guy called Abraham, and He said to Abraham, I'm going to make a people. I'm going to make a people because I love people. He created them, right? God created people. He says, I love people, but I've got to get close to them. I'm going to have a people that they love me and I love them. And I'm going to show the world how great God is through my people. I wonder about my life. Do people think that, understand that I think God is great? God's greatness resides in me. Is there anyone saying, oh, God is great, look at Tony? I don't know. Maybe there is. But it was through his relationship with this guy called Abraham. And he said to Abraham, I'm going to make a blessed people. People are going to see that I'm God and I'm real and I'm working in their lives. And look how great I am, is that people that would stand out amongst all the nations. But he didn't leave it there. He says, not only they're going to stand out amongst all the nations, but actually all the nations are going to learn how good I am through the blessing upon my people. Through my greatness, I'm going to share with my people at the time we're called Israel, and that they're going to share my greatness with every other nation. Every other nation is going to understand my greatness. So I live in a society that doesn't call God great. How do I do this? How can I be a Christian? How can I love Jesus in a society that is just like, is wanting to shush Jesus up and his people up and shush all that sort of spiritual stuff up? They want to dictate what's right and wrong and how to live, and we ourselves want to dictate that. We don't need someone greater. We got ourselves. That's what society is saying. I'm the greatest in my life, and I will dictate what happens in my world. But when we come to, if you've come through a personal revelation that's God's greater, we can't live like that anymore. We can't live like that anymore. We look to Jesus and say, well, I need your greatness at work in my life. It's really interesting here that he says, with minds fully sober and alert. There's a quote I wanted to share. It's saying, interpreting this, thus he likely means that they should prepare themselves for some heavy and serious thinking about what they will do in view of the suffering that they are facing. He calls them to be fully self-controlled or sober. Don't do anything irrational or panicky. He's saying this, before you blurt out on social media stuff about other people and, stuff about yourself, and have a really big think about the greatness of God before you do that, because what you throw out there is going to influence the lives of other people. And if you're not rational, if you haven't got your eyes focused on Jesus, all you're doing is throwing confusion and chaos into the world that don't understand faith already. So before you open your mouth, or maybe he's saying shut your trap, I'm not sure, but sometimes we need to. Oh, because when we talk about the greatness of God, we have to understand what God's greatness is for. It's for his people. Holiness is this. Holiness comes from the heart of God. If you want a quick definition, like the word holiness means to be set apart, right? And so that's why he took Israel and set them apart from all other nations and said, I'm going to be a great God to these people. Everyone on the planet, look how great a God I am. Look what I do with the Israelite people. And so he set aside for himself a people. That's what holiness is. You are holy because he has set you, because you put your faith in Jesus Christ. When you put your faith in Jesus Christ, or if you have put your faith in Jesus Christ, he then goes, right, you become my people. That's his heart. He wants you to be part of his family. He wants you to be your child. He wants you to be a son, and he wants to be a father to you. Now, that may mean a whole lot of different things to all of us, but he's the father of this nation, Israel. He started this relationship with and said, I love you. I love my people. See, holiness comes from the heart of God, which is a love for his people, that he'd be their God and that he would bless them and he would set them free and he'd set them on a destiny which would be his plan and his purpose for each one of us. That's the heart of God. It comes from his heart. It's interesting. in this scripture, he talks about holiness. There's a whole lot of people that he's talking to. He's talking to Jewish Christians. It's a preach, this 1 Peter that we're reading out. It's just a written sermon. It's not meant to be read. It was actually, it was preached in front of people. A lot of people couldn't read and write themselves, and it was a circular letter, went around to these Jewish churches that Peter was encouraging and supporting, and they were going through terrible persecution. They were different. They were different from the rest of the people in the land. And so that, like today, I sort of look at the end of this test, you're going to come out shining with hope. You're going to come out with eternity in your hearts, and you're going to come out with a different perspective than what you went when you went in. In verse 22, he says this, now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth. So in other words, now that they're in this place with God, right? Purity is that set apart. Purity is that holiness. Now that you have become part of the people of God and you've obeyed Jesus, have sincere love for each other, love one another deeply from the heart. That's what he's saying to these people under persecution. Now, I don't know if other like non-Christians or, maybe even like Christians like having a go at each other. We all, we like having a... What he's saying, what his chief goal for the Christians, the Jewish Christians that are being persecuted, is not start another political party. It's not get on social media and cause a ruckus. He's saying, no, the response that your hope has is to deeply love. It's to deeply love. He said, my people. He said, I love my people. And sent my son that he would die and that he would win my eternity through his resurrection. And my people, how are you going to see this hardship? How are you going to live in this world that rejects the things you have to say? How are you going to live in this world that have different ideas and opinions and may scorn you for you? How are you going to live in this world? It is by getting them back anytime you can. No, to deeply love. I'm like, what? This community. That's what you got, Peter? We're going to deeply love? That's going to make the difference. That's going to turn it around. I don't know, but it could turn around your marriage. That's the one thing that will turn around your marriage. It'll turn around the relationship with your kids. It'll turn around the relationship with your boss. If you found something, deep. That's a deep love, because you got to find within your faith and with your love, you got to find the love for the person that's across the way from you, that might think differently, that might act differently, that might, will scorn you and make jokes about you, or are different for you. And Jesus coming up, well, this is the answer. If you guys want to get through this, be my people and love one another. Be my people and love one another. That's what he talks about what holiness is. Talking about, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Yeah, we'll get to, don't do is all within. Don't is all within your soul, not worrying about what other people are doing. So I'm just, I don't know about you, but I struggle with that. God is so deeply in love with his people that his response to a world that reject us and put us aside is, hey, you guys, you better have my greatness in one another. Love each other. Love each other. Band together. You're my people. Don't abandon one another. He's not even starting with love people outside of the church. He's starting with this, love one another. Christians loving one another deeply. Christians doing that. I don't know, look around. Is there anyone here you're deeply in love with? And you can't look into your eyes of your wife. It's like, how do I deeply love like, how do I deeply love Tony Mould? I don't know. How are you going to? How am I going to deeply love Tim Huddleston? How do we go about that? Oh, we have to love the world. Yeah, sure, but what about the person sitting in the room with you? I've got to love Scott. Handsome, strapping man. Shouldn't be too hard. But yet, what do we still do? We still have a crack at each other. Have a crack at each other on social media. Oh, Christians do this. Did you know you were a Christian, right? Oh, this. Mate, if that's how you deeply love your partner, your marriage is like in trouble. I'm like, wow, and this is what we have to start with, holiness, because we want to start with holiness about what other people are doing wrong, like that sense of right and wrong. That's where we put holiness. Everything that's doing wrong in other people. I'm like, no, if we really understood holiness, it's that he's put his people on this planet to love each other deeply. I don't know how you're going to go about doing that. This week, you've got a